So we'll start with the decision on our decision on the last policy proposal, which is the abuse contact policy update. Based on the discussions we had on that proposal, we discovered that we had a lot of oppositions to that proposal, which are issues that has to be addressed by that proposal. So we're going to return that proposal back to the mailing list for further discussion, and we'll take it from there. Thank you. Sorry, the next item on the agenda is going to be the AFRINIC Policy Development Process BIS version 5, which the co-authors are Komi, Alain, Arnold, and Honest, who are the authors for this proposal. Honest. The proposal is a complete, the proposal is in its version 5. The last update was done in June 2019. The proposal is a complete revision of the current policy development process, the CPM 3.0. Key highlights are: provides for different and distinct phases for a policy proposal cycle through the PDP for adoption through last call to board, from adoption through last call to board ratification. So it's like we're trying to have improvements or changes to the PDP process. It also clarifies the consensus process around major and minor objections. It also clarifies the responsibility of chairs of the working groups and their role on how to determine presence or lack of consensus. So this proposal is about the PDP itself. So I would like to invite one of the representatives of the, I believe is going to be presented remotely. Oh, Alain, sorry. I would like to invite Alain to come and present this proposal. It's going to be presented remotely.
Okay, so Emil was supposed to do this remote, but I'm one of them. Okay. So as Moses said, this policy proposal goal is to reform our PDP. PDP is a policy development process. The one we have been using up to now, the one we adopted, I think, 2010. And along the way, it shows some limit, some weaknesses, and we try to address, okay? So, and as you can see from the problem statement, currently a provision for policy adoptions. We don't have, we don't have a provision for policy adoptions, which means that anyone who proposes something must, then it has to be accepted and discussed. And this is not a good practice when you have a working group. So everything starts first from problem statement, discuss problem statement, and if we agree that there is something for the working group to take on, then we adopt the work, okay, and then we assign to parties or we assign to the working group at all. The other issue is the consensus process. You saw there were already some comment on how the decision is made, okay. The current PDP give the power, the authority to the co-chairs, okay, to determine the consensus, okay. And this was supposed to follow a certain practice the working group used to have, but because our PDP does not explicitly specify how we do this, it became a problem because we had some discussion this morning, then you saw the two co-chairs talk to each other, then it looked like by consulting the oracle, they say, oh, this goes to last call or this doesn't go to last call. But the normal practice for policy discussion is to go issue by issue. This is how it works. When the document is being discussed or a proposal is being discussed, we should be following open issues. What are the open issues? Are we addressing the issue one-to-one? Are we closing the issue? So if we close the issue, then it becomes obvious to people that, yes, we have a consensus, or no, we don't have a consensus. But otherwise, if we don't go issue by issue and we don't do this, it becomes, I decide there is consensus or there is not. If you don't agree, do this. So this is so. The decision-making process also has been revised to. The other issue also we tried this. I think this is just to align the policy with the bylaw. The bylaw give the board the right to adopt policy. Okay, adopt the policy, and the PDP does not have the provision for it. So we find that we need to align the PDP with that. And what we've been proposed here is to align to the text in the bylaw. The text in the bylaw said, in case of urgency, board can adopt a policy, but board should bring the policy to the next face-to-face meeting for community endorsement. So the policy also address the issue on how we handle, before I get, how we handle the working group. Because if you have a working group, you must have a charter. The working group have co-chairs. How do you elect co-chairs? How do you revoke co-chairs? How do you, when the co-chairs are not able to attend the meeting? So the policy also address these issues as well, because we've seen issue where the co-chairs could not attend meeting, co-chairs resign. We have had a case where the two co-chairs has resigned, and we did not have so I apologize for those who have not read the document, because I'm not going to show the document. Okay, so maybe you should go online and look for the document. You can see that this proposal has been on the table for a while. So I'm just going to summarize. So what we did was, we have two documents. One is the PDP per se, and one, okay, which now is the guideline for the working group. So we separate the policy development process itself from the guidelines for the working group. And one discussion point was that we keep the PDP in the PDP and keep the guideline as a separate document, so that you can change the guideline without going through PDP. But the consensus was to keep both together, so they all go through the PDP. That means if you want to change anything in the guideline, you must follow the PDP. Since Kampala, so Kampala was our the previous meeting. What we see happening, and there was a policy authored by Jody. It has been abandoned or withdrawn. Then, but what we saw that now we see an attempt to solve the problem the PDP has piecemeal ways, addressing, instead of following what we are trying to do to solve the problem holistically, looking at the PDP itself. Okay, we are now trying to, we see some proposal to address some of the symptoms of the sickness, instead of addressing the root cause. So that's what we saw. Okay. Some of the key elements of the PDP-BIS. So PDP-BIS made the staff analysis mandatory. But what we propose is that the PDP, then the new PDP has 4 phases: adoption phase, discussion phase, review phase, and conclusion phase. We will only bother staff for staff analysis at the end of the discussion phase, when we are ready to go to review. We don't want to be interacting with staff when we are discussing ideas. So it's only when we complete the discussion phase okay, and we are ready to move to the review phase, then staff provide staff analysis and is the must. The current PDP said co-chair may request, but we made the staff analysis mandatory, but after the review phase. We had a provision because for how do we, the requirement to be co-chair. Currently we have none, but you can see that to be co-chair, we put some requirement. You must be on the mailing list, be active, and attended at least 2 meetings. And we, when non-com run call for candidate, the candidate should also, we should get more information about the candidate, etc. And then we have also some requirement of how we can request a recall of co-chairs, if co-chairs resign, if the co-chairs resign, if one resign, the other one continue with support of staff. If both resign, then the CEO lead the process to appoint someone via email, or if it happen at the face-to-face, do that. But this interim co-chair will be supported by staff. So we are at version 5, and one of the last thing we added is to a provision for co-chairs, not co-chair, for presenter to request funding if we don't have funding to come. So because okay, we have a remote presentation, but sometimes based on the topic, and we want, it may be good that the organization pay for the speaker to come. But to do this, for this to work, we have to make sure we follow the new PDP, where, because the new PDP said clearly that it is only proposal who got consensus after the review phase are the one who come to face-to-face. So that means that you are not going to request funding because I just put a proposal on the table. You get funding if your policy pass discussion phase, review phase, and qualify to be on the agenda for face-to-face. Then we think it makes sense that, if possible, funding be provided for. Achille? At the end? At the end? No, the dernier? Okay. So I thought we added the revision history, because I like to add the revision history to show people the lifetime of the policy. So I will just stop there and give the floor back to the co-chairs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would like to start with staff analysis. Yes, sir. You can sit down, sir. Staff, Madvi, please.
Okay, we don't have any analysis regarding this policy, but we, as staff, the Secretariat would like to inform the authors, the co-chairs, and the community that there is also another policy proposal regarding impact analysis to be mandatory that has been submitted. It will be helpful if we have a convergence between these two policies in case they both reach consensus, because both of them look at tackling a problem regarding the policy development process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to start with comments. So we go with Taiwo first.
Just quiet.
Yeah, good day, everybody. I'm Taiwo from Africa.
From Africa.
I have a few comments. Firstly, I'd like to say I don't support this policy. There's a clause on the policy that says adoption phase, two people cannot submit similar policies. I don't think that two people can have an idea. I want to put it to the public, to the community. I think they should be free to do so. Also, there's a clause that says implementation must be done within 6 months of the ratification of the policy. I don't think this should be determined by policy. I think it should be determined by staff, because there are some policies that take longer to be implemented. There was something about travel assistance for proposal initiators. I think I'll present a policy and call 17 of my brothers to be involved in the policy so 17 of us can come here. I don't think that would be, anyway, AFRINIC has said they have a lot of money, so I'll work on that. Thank you very much. But I want to ask a question to everybody. Do we think the PDP process is flawed? People? Do we think the current PDP process is flawed? How much so? All right, so I guess this process already works, so we should move forward with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Taiwo. The next person from the back.
I'm also Farouk from Africa. Thank you very much for the proposal, and I totally agree with you with the problem statements. And however, I have a lot of issues concerning the proposal, just as the way I highlighted some of them during the last meeting in Uganda. But first of all, there's a structural issues. Once you outline a problem, ABC, then your proposed solutions should also come as ABC, so that A will know it's addressing A, B is addressing B, not mix up. So my first concern is about the consensus issues, okay? You say coming up with the consensus, the process. I think there are some opinion. You were among them that started today that if you object, you must have a reason of objection. If you accept, you must have a reason of acceptance. But in your own proposal, you only suggested that it should be like a show of hands or votes or something like, not really votes. You defining that it's not a vote, but it's like measuring the opinion of the participants. So the raising of hands does not really signifies or does not substantiate your level of whether you're objecting it with clear intent of objection or you have a valid reason of objecting that. So that is a problem which not really addressed by your proposal. Though it's a problem, but your proposal has not addressed it. Then the second problem is the adoption process. I agree that lack of adoption process could lead to duplication of proposals. I agree with that. But my concern here is that there's a clause you put that the chairs should assess the relevance and of the problem in accordance to the scope. I agree. But where the problem will be here is in the case of disagreements, the chairs should go back to the working groups and the community within 2 weeks or for a minimum of 2 weeks. So that is like a lower band. You didn't specify it can be in the next 100 years. Are you saying the proposal should just keep on going in the next 100 years? Then the next one is a discussion phase. This is what I have commented in Uganda, in which my comment, not necessarily it has to be addressed, but I will still have to mention it. But personally, as an editor who has been reviewing or as a guest editor for so many journals, I have the experience of review process. So after the adoption process, okay, which should be above 4 weeks, okay, you say minimum of 4 weeks, so there's no any max. There's a minor objection, major objection, withdrawal. Then the authors resubmit. Basically, that is the decision. So your conclusion, the last, I think section 3.5.1.4 gives the room for the authors, even after the withdrawal, to resubmit. Okay, now, your proposal in in context generally is actually encouraging the community not to withdraw, because you are saying that the community must adopt, must accept. You keep on refining the proposal until it's accepted in the next 50 years. That's exactly what your proposal is saying. So I believe that proposal shouldn't be enforced. If proposal is not good, should be thrown. As an editor, we have a decision. There's a withdrawal with submission or withdrawal without submission. That is why we're here. We have 17 proposals. Next meeting, we may have 100 proposals, because all sorts of proposals, you can come up with a proposal how to wear a cap in AFRINIC meeting, you come and start discussing it here. No, things has to be explicit. So I don't think having said all this discrepancies, issues, and etc., this is not really the right path to follow. Thank you.
Because otherwise we can go. Please, yeah.
Answer. But please, the queue is now closed. Please, after, yeah.
Yeah, but I think allow me to address, otherwise it's going to be, okay, I think there was a questions, okay. There was a questions about if we consider that the current PDP is flawed or not. Okay, so, okay, I'm glad that the people say yes, and I suppose we all agree. Otherwise, maybe we should stop this discussion. Okay, because I've heard this many years ago. That I don't fix what is not broken. But what we've seen now is that there are some other proposals on the table to also fix the PDP. Okay, so I think we may disagree on this one, but let's focus on what we are trying to improve. The adoption phase, we said that there may not be two people submitting a same proposal. Yes, this is what we're trying to avoid, that if we as a working group agree on a problem to be solved, okay, we agree on the problem to be solved, okay, then we should have one. Then we can have a disagreement on the solutions. But this should not lead to different proposals. If we agree on one problem, so working groups should work on a solution. Okay. But if we have a different problem statement, then it's a different policy. But we should not have the two different policies solving the same problem if we agree on that we have one problem to solve. Okay. So, okay, the implementation 6-month thing, I don't think, but because we discussed this, I don't know why it's still there. And for the consensus, if you read the document clearly, our document is clear, saying that show of hands is not, like we said this morning, we all agree. And the document refers to how consensus should be done, and we propose major objections, minor objections, and how it should be, these objections should be used to clear the issue. So we have not said that is the show of hand would determine the consensus, is more on issues and the type of, more on the objections and the type of objection. The working group, the adoption, we said 2 weeks, then it seemed to be open. So we believe that we should empower co-chairs. We should not be limited, we should empower co-chairs, okay, to assess the situation we're dealing with and determine if it is 2 weeks, okay, 3 weeks and 4 weeks, etc., etc. So, yeah, I think this is what I can say for now.
Okay.
Go on.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Baduku Luka from Nigeria, Federal Inland Revenue Service. You talked about this in the policy. You included policy development principles.
Volume, please.
Policy development principles. One of such, you said bottom top. You understand? A bottom top, it's more like, okay, it's the bottom that decide whatever is done. But what I'm saying here is the decision-making process in terms of policy adoptions and all that are now in a way taken away from the community. It's actually against the bottom-top approach, because as it is now, well, where the decision basically will be lying is on the working group. You understand? The community, at some point in time, they will make their own, but solely it lies on the working group. You understand? So that it's a reverse case. It's now top to bottom rather than bottom top approach. That's one. Then secondly, there is also an aspect you talked about. That is differentiation between minor objections and major objections. There is no clear line division between them. It's subject to, it's kind of going to be subjective. And then if it is subjective, then I believe there is a flaw there that needs to be corrected. So with this point being said, and the other one said by my colleagues, I believe you should take it back and take a look at it once more. Thank you.
Back at the back here.
Oui, Kakel de la RDC.
I do not agree with these proposals, among the others, regarding the time, due to the current practices were explored by the communities some times ago. I myself was in Ghana, Uganda in June. We have discussed about that. At this level, I'd like once again to say that it is necessary to keep the current practice, because the complexity that present with the new elements, we are running a risk in taking more time for development of new habits which can block us. And let's try to keep it, because we have some other priorities to implement. That's all that I have to say.
This was discussed the same version in Uganda, and since then it has not been updated. I really feel strange that with all the inputs in general against the proposal that were provided in Uganda, the authors didn't decide to update it, because that means that we are wasting exactly the same time twice to address the same concerns. I expected that responsible authors of proposals keep updating them when they receive inputs. I am not going to repeat all the comments I did during the meeting and other people that today is not here, because they are still valid, obviously, being the same version. Some of them has been already mentioned, like, for example, it's impossible to define consensus if you go to subjective things like minor and major things, and it's no sense, and it loses the bottom-up approach when you don't allow competitive proposals. That's part of the process of getting consensus. It's not the best way, we agree, but sometimes, and I have done that several times, the same author sent two competitive proposals, because that helps the community to have a different view. And then the author can say, okay, I withdraw this one, or I withdraw this one. So I think that's breaking the process. And if you can go to the next slide, I would like to clarify something. Can you move? I think it's the next slide. You say that the chairs have invited competitive proposals to address them. You are referring to the chair selections, or you are referring to something else, or what? Because I didn't got an invitation, and on the other way around, I tried to talk with authors of transfers, and some of the authors of this policy proposal never responded. Others responded, and we met together and tried to put together things. There is also something here that says proposals which plagiarized many parts of PDPBs. This is totally false accusation, and this is breaking the code of conduct. The proposal about chair selection, if you are referring to that one, was originated from a proposal that we have since many long time ago in LACNIC. And then we realized it during the Kampala meeting that we need something similar here. So if you can prove that, please do that.
We go to the back, then we give Alain the opportunity to respond.
You, I'm still called Sharon from Uganda. I'm standing to oppose this policy. Why? Because yes, the current PDP policy needs improvement, but I don't believe this can be the best replacement for it because of the following reasons. You're trying to integrate the board in approving policies for adoption, and I don't think we can manage authors. Remember, authors are volunteering. They're sacrificing their time and resources to write policies for AFRINIC. So imagine I write a policy and then I'm supposed to take it to someone to approve. I don't know how long the person will take. There's a high chance that there's going to be a lot of bureaucracy and red tape that is going to lead to withdrawal of a lot of proposals, and authors are going to be discouraged from participating in this policy development process. Thank you.
Can I go? Okay, let me go because the lady who just spoke, I don't know if you have chance to read the bylaw. I'm speaking, madam. Okay, have you have chance to read the bylaw? The bylaw has a provision for the board, okay, to adopt policy. It's not me saying it. It's in the bylaw. Okay, it's in the bylaw. And the bylaw said if board adopt policy for any reasons, okay, then they should bring it to the next face-to-face meeting. So it's not something coming from us. But we just said that having this in the bylaw, but not in the PDP, yeah, so we are just aligning the PDP to the bylaw. It's not we introducing board. And this thing is not about a board approving any policy proposal. In case of emergency, the bylaw allow board to make policy. So I think before...
Yes, thank you, Alan. I've understood you. I know this is included in the constitution for AFRINIC, but still I'm talking about bureaucracy and red tape. You're not clearly stipulating how long the board will take to approve this, and how will the person or the author be informed about whether it's improved or not, whether it's approved or not? How will I know? What will encourage me to continue writing proposals, given my resources and time? Thank you.
Okay, we can discuss this private because I think we need to do some education because maybe we have this debate when we did the bylaw review, okay, but we got the bylaw and we should just follow what is in the bylaw, okay. Bottom up. Oh, we are all here for bottom up, but the bottom up is not opposing working group to community. I think this morning, the co-chair show clearly how it works. Say this thing is open to anybody to participate. Okay, so it's not that there is a working group now deciding. The working group is all of us at here and the mailing list, etc. So there is no dissension saying that the power is being taken by a certain working group, a secret working group, and then etc. No, the community, okay, yeah, is part of the, okay. Then the major and minor objections, we've explained this many times, and I don't know, because I think for those who used to work in a working group, or if you've been part of working group, when you are working together, there are people who bring objections, etc. How do we overcome them? It's simple. Some of them will be objective, some of them will be subjective. Then it's the role of a co-chair of the people in the working group to work. This is not it work everywhere. This is a normal practice for working group. Okay, it's the normal practice for working group. So it's not something because when you are working, you put objections. So if we don't have a mechanism to do it, let's say like you stand there and say, I oppose this, I oppose. And if you don't stop it, I will not leave the mic. No, you put your objection. You may think your objections is major objections, But if we ask you to elaborate, then you may find that, oh, I can live with it. So what we used to do here is maybe I oppose this, but maybe I can live with it. We're trying to compromise, okay, but we make sure that we are technically correct and we don't break anything. That's all. So we should go.
You have to comment from the remote participation. Grégoire Eoumi, no affiliation. I support this policy. PDP is broken and this policy is a welcome to fix the actual issues. Second comment, Sami Ali from Sudan. Salam, just on the consensus part, we can't decide it's a major or a minor. It's not about measuring the consensus. We have to satisfy all concern of the limits that make it accessible for all stakeholders. I can accept the policy in this part without said clarification. Thank you.
Go on. Yep.
Bonjour, je suis Walid Mshroh.
Good afternoon. I'm from Morocco. I'm a consultant in digital innovation. What is amazing here, this is my first participation. I see here very amazing things, and we have the right to propose, identify mistakes, to see what is good, and suggest and propose policies to be followed up. What I see here, what is shocking, how we can really ensure this inclusion has simple citizens that work at digital level and to have opportunity, to put or expose their idea to the public. I believe that this idea is being discussed very, very simply. We have to see the flexibility in terms of proposals. We are on the common base to see if we accept or not. The other minority or majority has how we can achieve basis that can argue we are in a minority or in a major situation. What can we do? This is an abstract issue. It is difficult to define if we will proceed to these strategies or many other to be efficient in different decisions for the conclusions. This objection, due to the many set of groups, how to ensure the inclusion at level of a PDP, not to be just simple spectators, or to not to have a right of a deep role on the decision making.
At the back.
Bonsoir, c'est Lamia du Maroc.
Good afternoon, I'm from Morocco. I'm against this policy because everything well done, just to say that we are losing time, it is not necessary. We are wasting time. So the PDP is working well. We do not need to waste time. We need to improve what is good, what is working. Let's think in different things, or at least give time to the most relevant issues that deserve more time.
Yeah, Daniel from Nigeria. My big problem with this proposal, when I look through it, is that we have increased the level of trying to come to a consensus. Let me say it this way, that what this proposal has succeeded or is attempting to do is to introduce another level of achieving consensus before we even come to the face-to-face meeting. What do I mean by that? I submit a proposal. How does that proposal become something that can be discussed on the mailing list? there should be a consensus. That's what I see the proposal saying. Who determines that consensus? Who determines the fact that this proposal is ripe to go on for discussion? Complications are coming in again. And we are saying that there were complications or holes in the previous, in the current PDP. And now we are introducing these several layers of attempting to solve the problem of consensus, because we are still having the problem of defining what consensus is. And now we are now introducing another level of consensus. For that basis, it becomes very difficult for me to think that this proposal should go on. But also, I will want to agree with the fact that I don't know whether the authors are beginning to suffer the burnout syndrome, because this proposal, some of the things that were argued and said to be the issues against the proposal were not addressed. So I believe either the authors are burnt out and they have left the proposal, maybe we're just looking at it to finally kill it or something else, but I'm a bit worried. So finally, I will want to totally disagree with the fact that we're even thinking of sponsoring people to come because they had submitted a proposal. I think we should improve the technology of remote participation. Thank you. In that basis, since nothing has changed since Uganda, the position is that it is still not ripe to continue discussing this proposal.
The mic at the back. The mic at the back.
This is Ezibo from Goldspine, Nigeria. I must say that during your presentation, you felt a little bit, I wouldn't say, it didn't have that, you didn't have that force you had when you usually came to ask questions. I didn't find it impressive because people were coming for the first time. And no one coming here for the first time will actually get anything from this presentation you give today. Maybe because you've been giving this presentation in Uganda and people who joined this process for the first time are listening to you on this particular presentation, people have gained more from the questions asked and answered on this presentation. Now, that's one. Then two, your policy is saying that when a policy comes up, it needs to be passed, irrespective of time and all that. I don't think Africa has that time to continue going over and over and over. It goes back to the mailing list, it comes back and we talk about it again. I don't really agree with that. And I also think that this policy silences freedom of expression, in the sense that a policy will keep on to be in the loop and continue to go, while some other serious policies at the back are being delayed, and we are discussing something that has gone over for some time and not been agreed on. This is my problem with this policy.
Thank you very much. I think this question has been asked before.
No, but I'm not addressing.
Oh, okay.
I'm not addressing. Okay, je vais parler en français pour mes deux amis qui ont parlé en français. Il y a une qui a dit que le current PDP est OK, mais je l'ai entendu dire.
Okay, I have heard about PDP, but you have mentioned about improvement. But there is a contradiction, because one asks how to do in order everybody has access. This proposal, we think that it is aimed to help. When we have an idea, we consider the idea, we present the idea. And then we discuss the problems and pro and cons in order to encourage the community and go on discussing. What we have here is consumed fact. Is there any problem? everything goes through policy. This is the problem. Why not discuss first what kind of problem that we have, how we can sort them out, and then we bring a policy. It has to do with stuff, but the policy should not be global. It is not clear. It is not a discouraging one. To write the policy is really heavy than to present an idea. So we are new in the system, but we can do something jointly, despite of saying this is the policy. Since on, we have to be ready to go on and discussing about this policy.
To the old one, saying that our policy seem to be creating a loop of policy going back, etc., etc. But this is false. The current PDP is the one allowing this. The current PDP said only the authors can withdraw the policy. So it can keep coming, it can keep coming. If you just change a single word, if you just change a single word in the policy, it's still valid for one year. This is what the current policy said, and this is the one we're allowing. But if you look at the new policy has provision for the working group or the co-chair to withdraw a policy. But yes, we have a provision that people can resubmit. Let's say if you abandon the policy because of, and then if you are able to fix the problem statement or fix something, we cannot prevent you from coming back. But it's not saying that you must come back. You may come back or you might come back if you have something. But this is what the system is saying right now. So we will not stay in the same loop where people keep the policy amending one word and keep it for 1 year. This is the current policy. So I think I will advise people that for the sake of having a good discussion, that people should look at the document. The current policy is what it's saying. I can keep this policy. I can just go and change one single word on it and have a TTL for 1 year. And the co-chair cannot stop me. And this working group cannot stop me. You depend on my willingness to withdraw. But then on the new one, the co-chair can say, based on the discussion we have at the meeting, then with the working group decided. And one of the things we also added to this policy is saying that you notice, now we are not talking about the policy author, policy initiator. So that means when you submit, you lost control. It's no longer your property. It belongs to the working group. So you give all the rights to the working group. So the working group decides. But the way it is now, I control my policy, is my baby, and I use it to play around. So I think this is very important for me to mention. Moses, I'll stop there.
We'll go to the mic in front.
Is Pascal from Nigeria. Alan, can I proceed? Yes. Okay. I think from the first place where probably, let me use the word shot yourself on the foot, is your presentation. Actually, it didn't do you too much good. I don't think you were ready for this presentation, actually, because if you have seen the quality of the other presentations, which you saw, you would have seen the different texts, the previous and the present, and you would have made a lot of motivation from the floor to actually support your proposal or get clarifications. But most of the clarifications you are given now, most of the people can't really see the difference of the various revisions. So I think that is one of the first problems, actually. Then the next one is, you said in 3.5.2 in your text that the PDWG chairs can also decide to have the draft proposal edited and start a new review phase. And from the statement you made was that the co-chairs whisper to themselves like consulting the oracle. And this section for me, I think, is consulting the oracle of just little addition in the text, 2 lines, 3 lines, and the co-chairs are actually empowered to do that. And what we are preventing is for the co-chairs to have the power to do that. So I don't know. I'm thinking you are having a little bit of conflict in this text, actually. And the show of hands, that means next time we can have maybe, you can call for electronic voting. and people can stay at home and also start showing show of hands in a proposal, maybe in 2040. I don't know. We should try to actually prevent this, actually, Alan. So these are my concerns for now. And also the changes that have not been reflected since Kampala. I mean, it is absolutely not good for you. So thank you.
Sorry, before you respond, before we go to the next person, please, I want us we need to raise some objections. When we raise some objections, I don't like this issue we're raising that somebody is born out or the way he presented. Anybody can present anyhow he wants. Let us raise objections or let us support in terms of points, because that doesn't really affect the way the point or the proposal. Thank you. We go to
Ms. Nikweno, I support this policy, and I'll give you some of my reasons for supporting the policy. I think you need to look back a bit. We've been using this present PDP policy for some time, and perhaps a holistic upgrade is due. Initially, many things were done informally because we're a much smaller group and out of trust, sort of based on trust. Okay. But now we have a lot more people, and we need to follow what the intention is, which is as a working group. That is how we've been defined. We are a working group that works both on mailing lists and face-to-face. So we have to devise a mechanism that allows us to behave like a working group. Now, if we're a working group, then the documents really should belong to the working group, okay? And so we need to find a mechanism, which I think the proposal is trying to address, by which we adopt the documents. So in this case, they've defined for you that at least for any document should have its own life cycle, and it also should start from a clear problem statement. This is what I've understood. Now, as to how the things move forward, clearly those responsible for calling consensus must be empowered so that they can manage the advancement of the documents. Okay, so there are attempts in the document that try to help the co-chairs do that in a somewhat very logical way. Now, you may not like major changes, minor changes, whatever, but it's telling the co-chair that he ought to have some reasons, okay? And we can give you guidelines as to what you may consider as major or minor, but the point is that it shouldn't be ad hoc. It shouldn't be because me as co-chair, I want the thing to go to last call, so I take it to last call. It shouldn't be like that. It has to be because most of the issues that are concerning people have been addressed. And so you must have a clear issue list. And for every time we're coming to meetings, you ought to be able to tell us what is left to be done. Okay, so that we can all, be abreast with it. It is these kind of things that are being discussed, in my opinion. So moving a document forward without us as a working group having agreed on a problem statement, I think is futile. Okay, and we've seen examples of it here today, where we are questioning, the problem statement, because we've already gone ahead and solved the problem. So somebody will say, I'm not sure this problem is relevant. You haven't provided data to back why the problem is being addressed and so on. So if we could systematically, move documents forward, bear in mind that the group now owns it, I think it's a good idea. Now, I think it's also useful that we build our PDP community, the working group itself. So asking for support for, let's say, one, author or initiator, as they are calling it, to be funded to participate, I don't think is such a bad idea. In fact, I prefer the institution, AFRINIC, doing that funding than some other donor doing it for me, because then the donor may capture okay, the process. So there are reasons why it's being asked that we should be building our community, and in some cases it may make sense for the organization itself to fund at least an important contributor to attend the meetings. My last comment is that we need strong moderation, okay? And the moderation must be clear and decisive with good reasons to defend themselves anywhere. So that if in case something goes to appeal, that's not when we start looking for the reason why decisions were made. It should be very clear, because some of these decisions will go on appeal, okay, because it's part of our process. And if it's going to go on appeal, then I pray that the decision makers really do have clear issues outstanding that they can say, because of these issues which are outstanding and they are not major, that's why I'm going, for instance, to last call. I mean, this is the sort of thing that we need to think about. So I like a policy upgrade of the PDP that empowers the co-chairs, okay, to call these consensus things, okay, in a fairly systematic way. When they say show of hands, please, I don't think it's voting. Because sometimes we even just hum, we just hum. And the co-chair himself can determine whether there's a very important issue remaining or not. So we are not asking for any voting whatsoever. One is saying that we need to have a method by which co-chair lets the document advance until the final stage in a sort of a logical and systematic way. So I support the policy, and I think you should also support the policy.
Haruna from Nigeria. I haven't listened to most of the arguments presented, and I think the first point I have is the inability of the presenter to give us the data that would help us draw a conclusion. By data, I mean changes that were implemented, say from the last meeting in Kampala to now, is making it difficult for most community members to take a decision, final decision here. But then the point I have, secondly, is that the part that says authors or initiators of policy proposals should be sponsored or should get a financial benefit for that. I think it is ridiculous, because since the life cycle of proposals can go for, I don't know, maybe 2 years sometimes. Like the other time, someone was asking the person that reported from other RIs how long a proposal took before it was withdrawn. The person said, I think the answer was like 1.5 years or so. So if we accept this and say we want to be sponsoring authors or initiators, then for how long can we do this? Like, is it feasible? Is it something that is sustainable? If really AFRINIC wants to look at this holistically, how can this be feasible? So with these few points and some arguments that have been presented, I am not in support of this policy, and I guess it should return to the mailing list for further discussions if necessary.
Sorry, please.
It's just information.
Please, honestly, because of time. Honestly, because of time, the queue has been closed. Please.
Just 30 seconds.
Please, no, please. We are running short of time, and we need to move on to the next issue. We, just like Alana said, we're not consulting the oracle, but I need to consult him for us to take a decision.
No, but I have to answer the last.
Yes,
before you do your consultation. Okay, I think there were a group of people who said that I didn't come here with the same energy. So I didn't come here to do a marketing and to sell something. Okay, I have a different personalities. Okay, so I thought I've been so calm enough to pass a message. That's what I've decided to do today. Tomorrow I can be a different person. It's not a matter of the force and the force. The other thing I would like to do is showing the text. and I saw Jordi when he was doing abuse. He said that some of the tests, or one of the policy, some of the tests are so long, we don't bring them here. When we come to face, we suppose that all these people here have read the policy. We are not, let's say, I should come here again and show this, show that. Maybe this, I think this is something, no. We have decided that we'll be talking to people who has read the document, okay, who has read the document, read the revision history. Let's say if I want to present this, we've done this before. If I want to present the policy, it can take 1 hour, the working group, etc. So I assume that the people have read the document, okay. On the issue of from Kampala to here, but Kampala to here, there's no change because we have a clear disagreement. We have a clear disagreement of some of the argument. And we have not changed the document because, okay, and since Kampala, I don't know, but maybe I missed some mail, but I haven't seen any same comment on this policy on RPD. Then someone say majorité, that was in French, majorité, minorité. We need to be careful. Major and minor is not, ce n'est pas majorité, minorité. Hein. Il semble qu'il y a une confusion. Quand nous avons dit une opposition.
Major and minor is not the same thing. Not the same thing, major and minority.
Et on a défini ce qui est major, ce qui est minor, mais ce n'est pas une question de majorité et de minorité. Et puis, and the last things I want to say is that I want to beg this community, please. I said this morning, it looked like when we speak, we don't listen to each other. It makes it difficult. I've said something, Dr. Nee just repeated the same thing. We are not saying that as soon as you put the policy on the table, you get a finding to come to the meeting. We're saying that if we follow the new PDP, there is 3 stages before your policy qualifies to come to face-to-face. Then if it's qualified to come to face-to-face, if for some reason you need funding, you may request, but we said it at the discretion of the CEO. We are not saying that I put a policy, then I look for funding. And we even said that it depends on, do we really think you should be on ground to do so? We are not saying that. So I think we say it, but it looks like we refuse to listen to each other. It makes it difficult. We cannot be arguing that it looks like there's people who come, just say what they want to say. They're not listening to us. We said clearly that to do this thing, to do the funding to the initiator, we need to be in a new mode where before your policy come. And I like Daniel. Daniel said something, which saying that it looked like you said that the consensus thing is okay, etc., etc. Yes. So let's say, Daniel, if we don't do what we are trying to do, see what we are doing right now. You propose something, you stay on a list, you come here, we oppose, we go back, we do this, we do that. Is it what we should be doing? I'm afraid that we will lose some of the young who say this seems to be a waste of time. I'm afraid if we don't have a mechanism to show clearly that if it is good, it pass. If it is bad, it stop. I don't think these people will survive. It become a waste of time. Okay. And consensus at the beginning and the middle, at the end has to happen. If we were just following the objections, we may disagree on what is major, what is minor. But if we agree that for each policy we keep a list of objections, for example, it'll be useful. So, for example, when we come here, I will be telling you this is at the open issue, or the co-chair will be telling you what are the open issue. When we close all the issues, I think there are some people who write code here. If you write code, you use open list, right? Then you keep closing the issue one by one. When you close the open issues, then you can say, I'm done. So this is it. But if we don't do this kind of things, it's not going to help us. So I think I address all the points, and I think it's time for me to just leave these people because they are going to do some secret consultation.
Thank you very much, Alain. However, after consulting the Oracle spoke clearly, and the Oracle said, your job is to listen to the community. And that is exactly what we are doing. We're not consulting any Oracle. I think maybe we have some Oracle here. The Oracle has said that we should take the head of Jody if we would have done that. So please, the issue is what we do as co-chairs is we have to look at the issues that was raised and see if those issues are serious enough for us to say we are pushing it back to the mailing list. If those issues are issues that we think can be addressed in the last call is not saying everything that has been passed. The last call, we still have the opportunity of modifying things and doing things and adopting the policy, or even still saying we still need some issues to be addressed. The last call has a minimum of 2 weeks. It's a minimum of 2 weeks. We can go on for 4 weeks to discuss it. So please, I want you to understand that clearly. And on this policy, we think there are still a lot of issues that has not been addressed. Clearly, we've listened to the House, and we think this policy should go back to the mailing list for discussion. Thank you very much. So there is no consensus on this policy, and we're taking it back to the mailing list.